All right. Drake May has to drop one row.
Fair.
Okay, I'm glad you said it was fair. I was worried it might be a fight, and then I was like, I almost left him on row 6 just to avoid Drake May content on the show, but the mountain demands honesty. Russ has to drop a bit as well. Rodgers on a bye. Carr, Jameis stay where they are. Cooper Rush, fair's fair. He cooked. He gets to move up. He gets on the mountain. Will Levis, he played well.
And he's played fairly well the last
That is oddly, I know we all just wrote off Anthony Richardson. That's kind of the hope with Anthony Richardson as well. Like, you have all this talent. Can you harness it at some point? Yeah.
It's back to my original point. When the argument for Anthony Richardson's future is maybe you can become Will Levis.
No, that's not what I meant.
I'm just saying superstar might not be in the cards.
I tend to agree. All right, 6th row. Kyler. You cost me a 3-0 week on this show, a 5-0 week on the pod. That pick 6 you threw was an outrage.
Yeah.
Jaden has dropped, CJ has dropped, more on them in a minute. Kirk Cousins stays where he is. Caleb moves up. I thought he was, I know they lost. I thought he was excellent this week. I thought his best game as a pro. And Bryce.
Highest he's ever been, I think.
Yeah, but yes, the highest he's ever been by far, and shout out to him. This is not Chiefs bias. I thought he played well in that game. And I understand the Chiefs defense hasn't been dominant the last few weeks. It's still a good defense. I thought he played well. I want to take a moment, though, and talk about a couple guys on this row. Because narratives are a funny thing. And if we can go to a double-blind reveal, if you would, because Wilds doesn't like when I do, like, best 6 games. He doesn't like, so I was like, I thought about it long and hard. It's like, you know what, Wilds might have a slight point, even if it's not a great one. What if we just go a set amount of time?
Fair.
So, since week 3, do we agree these two players pretty close? One on the left might be better. Oh, since the talk. Hey, CJ, 2 ears, 1 mouth. Maybe take it. Ever since CJ was like, hey, young buck, let me tell you how to play quarterback in this league. When do they play next? Because I wonder if Caleb's got some lessons for him. Go ahead,
I look at it completely differently.
What do you mean?
Caleb should be, thank you, CJ. I took that advice. I stopped taking all these hits, and I improved dramatically.
But was the advice, did it transfer CJ's powers? Like, did he speak it? By the way, the other thing, funny thing about narratives, again, last 9 games. Again, rookies, can we show the next one? Last 9 games. I don't know. Maybe that rookie of the year race is a little more open than you thought. Last 9 games, Wilds.
9 is
that
lot.
something?
That's something.
That's something.
Not nothing.
When they played 11 and 12 games, it's something.
I wonder what Bo Nix looks like.
He's running away with it, America. All right, next, 5th row. Sam Darnold, the rare staved off pumpkin mode. I guess, you know what, that's not rare. That's literally what happened in Cinderella. Went pumpkin mode, then went back to princess. So there you go. Jordan Love, Geno, stay where they are. Unprecedented in mountain history. But Mr. Consistency must remain Mr. Consistency. Brock Purdy moved up in a bye. Normally a bye, you're locked in. But because I am honest, and I said if Brandon Allen cooked, I would use it against him. Brandon Allen being terrible, I will give Brock Purdy some credit. There you go. Brew, on the other hand, was like, Brandon Allen cooks, it means nothing, but he struggles. He's wiping his shoulders, all this nonsense. And there's Bo Nix. Again, I'm going to be on the record here. I do not believe in Bo Nix. I said before the year he's the quarterback most likely to trick people into thinking he's good. It's going to be a classic 2. 4th row, Tua cooking. All of a sudden, Dolphins are they too far behind? Not if they can win this weekend. Justin Herbert, sorry, Danny Parkins. He's got to drop. Matt Stafford, this one hurts my heart. He's got to drop. Jalen, there was an argument to move him up, but when you see the top 6, I couldn't do it. But Jalen played well this past week. Row 3. Lamar stays where he is. Jared Goff moves up. Now, I'm not yet ready to put him on the echelon Wilds, which is quarterbacking the greatest offense in NFL history. The greatest. And then Bake Show. Oh, my goodness, Bake Show. He's been awesome for 2 years now. And he is, well, we'll talk more about Baker later because there's some great video of Baker that I thought was the highlight of his season. He didn't even have the ball. 2nd row. It's weird. Allen and Burrow are on a bye, so they can't move up, they can't move down. And then Patrick Mahomes stays where he is at top and is.
Okay, this is, oh man, he set me up so good for this one. I'm so happy he did this because first off, C.J. Stroud and Caleb Williams. C.J. Stroud has has like nothing offensively going for him right now. Okay, like nothing. And to compare that to what Caleb Williams and all those weapons and everything that they had, night and day. If we want to say coaching, that Caleb or that CJ Stroud has better coaching and stuff like that, that's fine. They both have bad O-lines, except CJ Stroud's even worse. So CJ Stroud not only has even a worse O-line, but also has even less weapons. Injured running back who's been in and out of that lineup. So missing his wide receiver 1 and 2. So if you want to compare those numbers, not really the same thing. But since we love doing just these cold numbers with zero other context, that Nick wants to show that, hey, this is proving that Caleb Williams is better than CJ Stroud or better than Jaden Daniels or whatever the case may be. Since he loves to do that, let's take a look. Let's do this. I'm so happy that he set me up for this one. I really, really am. I don't have a blind reveal, but I do have a comparison because we don't have to do now just, the last 6 weeks or this limited sample size. How about the last 2 years? 2 years, is that a big enough sample size? Let's find out. Jalen Hurts versus Patrick Mahomes. This looks eerily similar. Eerily similar. He doesn't think Jalen Hurts shouldn't move up. He thinks that Jalen Hurts, that Baker Mayfield's better. Mahomes is at the top. Look at this. Virtually the same. 33 wins, 66.6 to 67% completion, 96 to 97 rating, 9,700 yards to 11,000 yards, 1,700, almost 1,800 rushing yards to 914, 57 passing touchdowns, 83 obviously goes to Mahomes, a lot less interceptions, 26 to 37, total TDs, Jalen Hurts has it, 96 to 88, turnovers, Jalen Hurts has less total turnovers. Yeah, I am not saying that Jalen Hurts is as good as Patrick Mahomes. It's so funny to see how every single time that triggers every single Patrick Mahomes fan. Oh, Super Bowls, you're saying that they're the same? How dare you? Blah, blah. They do that with every comparison, and yet they fail to see that, again, Nick Wright, who makes these types of comparisons all the time, is obviously the biggest Patrick Mahomes fan in the world. So it's still so funny to me that people still can't grasp the concept of comparing these and pointing out the similarities or the differences and using it as a jumping off point to have a conversation. They still think that means that if you do a comparison like this, that means that you're saying that Patrick Mahomes is equal to Jalen Hurts or something like that, or you're saying that Jalen Hurts is better than Patrick Mahomes. No, it's just putting into context. It's also pointing out that some of the hate or some of the love that you give or take from a player, and when you want to use these one-to-one stat comparisons, doesn't always necessarily make the most amount of sense. And if you're going to use it as a reference point, then you have to be consistent. It's just some of these things really just don't make a whole lot of sense. Again, let's just stick with Jalen Hurts, and then I'll kind of go around with some of the other people. Like Jalen Hurts, Nick Wright said, hey, he thinks that the Rams were actually like a legitimate Super Bowl contender, and said pretty much the winner of that game is going to be who he thinks is going to go to the Super Bowl from the NFC. And now you have Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles play great, pretty flawless game, and he don't move against another potential Super Bowl contender. And then you have Baker Mayfield, who goes up against the New York Giants, one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in the NFL, with their third string quarterback. And that's good enough to move someone out up, to move Baker up. It doesn't make any sense. Honestly, it really, really doesn't. So I'm just not so sure. And then Russ does not deserve to move down. Russ was not the reason why they lost that game against, for the Steelers in the snowstorm. He is not why. He actually had some big time plays. I understand they got off to a slow start and stuff, but in the snow, he had some big time plays, some big time throws. He was not the reason. It was bizarre coaching. Having Justin Fields throw the long ball, the deep ball, that made no sense. That's Russell Wilson's specialty. And now you're asking Justin Fields to do it? Like, that didn't make any sense. That was on coaching. Russ was not the problem there at all. So he has no business moving down. When you look at all these other quarterbacks that move down, and again, Justin Herbert shouldn't be moving down. And again, I understand sometimes you got to move someone down to bring them up or whatnot. I know a lot of people are going to be furious about Burrow being ahead of Lamar. Mahomes still does not deserve to be at the top. And in no world, again, what is this now? Makes Baker Mayfield a top 6 quarterback. You really think that Baker Mayfield should be on the same level as Lamar Jackson? Baker Mayfield should be on the same level as Lamar Jackson. You can't tell me that I'm a Baker Mayfield hater when I had been defending him and saying that I've been really impressed with how he's been playing with all of those injuries and that roster. I am. But if you want to tell me that you think that Baker Mayfield is on the same level as Lamar Jackson, I don't even know if there's a discussion worth to be had if that's what you're truly going to say that you believe to be the reality. Or if you think that Baker Mayfield is a better quarterback than Justin Herbert or Matthew Stafford or Jalen Hurts, I just do not know what to tell you. I really, really don't. If you believe that, there's actually no argument to convince you otherwise. Honestly, it's like trying to convince. If you believe that 1 + 1 = 7,466, if that's truly what you believe in, I don't know how I'm going to explain to you that 1 + 1 just actually equals 2, because you are so far off of what reality is. I don't even know what to say, honestly. I really don't. And the last thing I'll say, since we're talking about Baker, and since everyone's going to call me a Baker hater anyway, I won't have room to put this take anywhere else, so may as well put it here. I think it was actually pretty awful that how he was making fun of a quarterback for the New York Giants who clearly is not going to have a big career in the NFL, who probably won't even be in the league for another few years, makes no money. His highest high is winning for a bad team, having a couple highs, and you're going to have Baker Mayfield, who, if you want to say is actually a top 6 quarterback, you don't think it's low class to take shots and make fun of like a 3rd, 4th string quarterback who, again, is not even, who's barely hanging on to his career in the NFL. You think that makes sense to do? An actual established $100+ million quarterback playing for the Bucs, who's actually a very, Baker is obviously a very popular player in the NFL, commercials, all that. You think that makes sense for him to do that? You don't think that that's low class? It 100% is. And if you want to question that, that's fine. Ask yourself, would Mahomes do that? No, well, Mahomes is at the top of the mountain. And I'm sure a lot of these people that are watching this video also are probably going to be mega Mahomes fans and love Nick Wright. Do you think Mahomes would do something like that? No, he would not. Do you think Justin Herbert would do something like that? No. Do you think Jalen Hurts would do something like that? CJ Stroud? Like, no. I can go down the list of all these quarterbacks that would do that. Really, the only one that I really see legitimately doing that is maybe Will Levis and Baker Mayfield. Don't see Stafford doing it. Nix, Purdy, Caleb. That's a low class move, man. Like, it's one thing if it was against another starter or something. Like, I could see it. Another guy who's made a ton of money in the league, but like, low class, man. Low class.
Pointed out yesterday, last half of the season for Mahomes, 12 touchdowns, 3 picks, 103 rating, a lot more vintage Mahomesy. Yep. So there is the latest edition of Mahomes Mountain. Coach?
You know, I actually finally agree that Patrick Mahomes is where Patrick Mahomes should be this season.
Really?
So that's positive. I'm taking a little bit of the Jaden and CJ Stroud thing personally. It felt like you spent an extra long time on them because you know that I have.
Well, I just feel like Caleb's been the subject of scorn, and it's a couple months of good football.
The 2 guys I have a soft spot in my heart for. You go after pretty aggressively, but my main problem is where you have Tua versus where you have Baker, and I don't think you're giving Tua anywhere near the credit that he deserves. And this again is a very rich tapestry. So let's just take a look at what Tua versus the Dolphins. So when he's there versus when he's not there, and the huge impact. You can't argue the incredible impact that he has on that team when he shows up to play. So there's that.
135 yards passing.
There's that component of it. Oh,
Yeah.
but the
No,
other,
I'm agreeing with you.
okay.
No. I'm saying that's really bad.
Yes, I mean it's stark. Okay, now let's just take a look at him because Nick said we should look at things in blocks of time that are equal. So let's look at Baker versus Tua over the last 5 games.
Small.
Well, it's a rich tapestry, and we just looked at a block of time in our last segment. So take a look at what Tua's done versus what the Bake Show's done. And I get it. He throws out the cutlets and he throws a block and he jumps at a ball. We yell at Tua because he throws a tackle, which is a problem.
Well, yeah,
which is a problem. But all those behaviors are problematic.
None of it's a problem with your
when
Bake
you're
Show.
when you're a quarterback who's really important to your organization. So I'd say your greatest mistake was not having Tua in the spot that you have Baker.
Okay, so I am impressed by how Tua has played as of late, and you are right that offense is absolutely dismal without him. But the thing is this, we don't know what the Tampa offense would look like without Baker because the guy's a warrior, never misses time, and God forbid they had to play bruised guy Kyle Trask, it'd probably be worse. What I do know is that Tampa offense, Wilds, the last year it had a quarterback that wasn't Baker Mayfield, who happens to be one of the 2 greatest quarterbacks of all time. Despite that, they weren't scoring. They were boring.
That was a running game.
Yeah, now they got 75 running backs. That,
yeah. You hate the fact that they run the football.
No, I love the fact.
Exactly.
I wish they'd gotten one when Tom was there. That would have been plus.
Leonard Fournette, they won a Super Bowl with him. Give me a break. And
also
also Baker, by the way, was doing it without any of his
history.
weapons. He finally got Mike Evans back. Tua's moving up. Baker's where he should be. Brew, go
Coach,
ahead.
you made a good point.
Thank
All right, but this one's just odd. Why is Lamar on the 3rd tier?
Where should he be?
I mean, what? The 2nd tier.
Those guys have
You
buys.
could move either one of
They
them,
had
but I'm
buys.
going to say Joe Burrow.
You can't lose your place on a week off.
Actually, Purdy moved up in a bye week.
He wasn't on a bye. They weren't on a bye, sir.
Rules
The
are
Niners
made
played.
to be broken.
The Niners played.
But secondly, you said Baker, or you moved Purdy up.
The
despite him not
Niners
playing.
played a game.
There's
They're not
no
on a
way. I
bye.
told you this last week. You didn't listen. Lamar should be ahead of, pick one, Allen, Burrow, whoever.
I would take
but
Burrow.
I'll say Joe Burrow. And here's why. They're 4-7. Joe Burrow has not beaten a winning team yet, despite having
Brew, that's not
arguably
his
the
fault.
best
It's
receiver
not
in the
his
league,
fault.
Jamar Chase,
It's
and then
100%
another
the
great one in
defense's fault.
T. Higgins. But he can't. He's 0-6 against teams with winning records.
Oh.
Lamar Jackson's 8-4 overall, 4-2 against teams with winning records, and the numbers for Lamar are better. Now, Burrow's are great, but Lamar's are slightly better. Slightly, but better. There's no, and passer rating, Lamar's got one of the best ever for a season. Look at yards per attempt as well, even though he doesn't have as good of receivers as Burrow has. So in what world does your team have twice as many wins, beat you head-to-head twice, 2-0 against your head-to-head, and the numbers are better, and you're still lower?
So I just want to say real fast, because I'm not even trying to debate Lamar or Burrow. I knew people were going to have issues with that. Those are all top quarterbacks. They just deserve to honestly all be in the same category, quite frankly. But this whole idea that the wins and losses and all of that honestly is just becoming so old. You must have never really played a sport before if you don't know what it's like to be on a team that is obviously just not good. You can be an unbelievably amazing, great player. You just can't overcome everything. Like Wilds is saying sarcastically, it's not his fault. It's all the defense. You got to find a way to win. And it's just like, what are you talking about? Seriously, what are you talking about? It makes fundamentally no sense. Zero. None. Unless you've been on a team where you're the best player and everyone else is awful, then you just don't really know what it's like. That no matter how great you are, there's only so much you can do to overcome it. There's just so much you can do. So to constantly use wins and losses and this and that, it just does not make sense. It doesn't. And it's in a lazy opinion. And I get why people do it, because it's easy. It's really easy. It's just a head to head, wins and losses. It's very simple. 5 is more than 2. This number is bigger than that number. And I get it. But again, it's so under that logic, then this should just be wins and losses, or just who has the best stats. Just look at this. Just look at the rankings. Just look at the PFF rankings and look at the standings. Combine them together. Boom. You got it. You got your pyramid. You got your top 10, whatever, whether it be quarterbacks, teams. We know that's not the case. We know that's not the reality. So why do we have to constantly have that same conversation, that same debate again and again and again? It just does not make sense.
I don't get.
Great points, Purdy.
Thank you.
So hold on.
It doesn't make it make sense.
Okay, it would be very hard for me to justify, first of all, everything you just said there, except for the head-to-head thing. Why aren't we doing this for Jared Goff? He has a better record than either one of them. He hasn't lost 4 times. He's lost 1 time.
He doesn't have better numbers than Lamar. That's why.
The numbers are very close.
But they're not better.
No.
Lamar's are better.
I agree that.
Actually, not that close. 27 passing touchdowns to 20. 4 or 5 interceptions to 9.
Doesn't
passer ratings 11 points better.
Right. So Goff's top 3, I think, in passer rating, and Lamar's number 1. I agree. Like, I think Burrow, to me, is playing some of the best football of his career. I know Wilds kills him for the win-loss record and sarcastically says, oh, it's not his fault. In the 2 games they have played Baltimore, it definitively was not his fault.
I know.
They missed a kick. And they've averaged 37 a game in those games. So that's why
Lamar was great too.
Lamar's great in both of those games. And Lamar was up there, but then Lamar played a poor game against Pittsburgh and dropped. Joe Burrow's on his day off. It's like Smokey and Friday. Can't get fired on a day off. He actually did, but that was the whole gist of the movie. And Brock Purdy moved up. His team played. It wasn't a bye. The Mountain, what are we without rules? I'm not going to all of a sudden willy-nilly change the rules because it makes people feel better about themselves. Where you are on a bye is where you remain. He can move up.
Terrible.
Lamar can move up. By the way, he also had 177 yards passing yesterday. Everyone's
3
falling
touchdowns.
off.
You
He
weren't
had 3
impressed with
touchdowns.
those throws?
And the 40-yard pass to
No,
Bateman?
I thought he played well, but it was not historic to where I'm going to break mountain regulation.
He had 3 touchdowns, Nick, against a good playoff team.
I thought he played well. Not enough for me to move him up.
I'm keeping Baker where he's at. Is Coach trying to move Baker down? All I hear Coach talk about is, when you're behind the scenes, Wilds, you're not just on flag football, Coach. When you're a real coach, you see everything that the quarterback does. He says that you can be a force multiplier. Well, first of all, let's look at the numbers that the Bake Show is putting up.
They're awesome.
3rd in completion percentage. 3rd with 24 passing touchdowns. Yards per game, he's 6th. Passer rating, he's 6th. So it's like, all right, pretty good. Now let's look at the force multiplying. First up, fumble recovery. No one on the Bucs
Coach.
paying attention, Coach. What happens?
Look at
all
this.
of a sudden, hit somebody's foot.
Nobody notices the
it's
ball.
all there. Here comes the Bake Show. Never giving up on the play.
I thought he should have scored.
Never giving up
He
on
should
the
have
play.
took a page out
He's
of
right.
Ron
He's
Taylor's
ready to go.
book.
Next up,
Ran it in.
how about if it's a run play? You don't really have any responsibilities on a run play. Just hand it off and let things happen.
This is one of
Look
my
at
favorite
Baker
plays of the
popping
season.
out of the graphic in 1 second. Here he comes. Here's the Bake Show. He's directing traffic, setting blocks. Down to the 50-yard line. He's exhausted.
Yeah, it's called dumb.
Finally,
If he was Anthony Richardson, take a break.
energizing the team. Yeah, Bucks need a little bit of identity. I don't think Big Show gets enough credit for this. In the post-Brady era, teams struggle. Who are we? Trust me, Patriots have been going through this for years. They're still the team that used to have Tom Brady. Big Show's like, you know what we are? We're an extension of me and my attitude. Flying in, love it.
And holding on to the ball when he gets popped there.
And then just mocking Tommy DeVito, which I'm not a huge fan of.
Tommy DeVito
Ridicule,
with the
but
number 1
I am
overall
a
draft
huge
pick.
fan of
He's
energizing
punching
the
down.
squad.
There's no
Yeah,
doubt about
So
that.
force multiplying.
That's
is,
Punching
I
down.
think they're big-
Exactly. I'm glad they said it. Exactly. Punching down. Get out of here. I'm going to end it on that. I'm so happy they just said that very quickly. It's punching down, and it is. It's low class and just gross, quite frankly. And that's why people don't like Baker. And why it's warranted, quite frankly. It's why it's warranted for any of the hate. And again, I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. I'm really not. He's not top 6. We can cook the books all we want. You can say you want Baker over Justin Herbert. By all means, go do that. Best of luck to you, man. Truly. If you think that Baker Mayfield's on the level as Lamar Jackson, by all means, God bless you. God bless you for that delusional world that you live in. A part of me is envious of it. It really is. Unless I'm able to figure this crazy thing out of life and really make something, I will be envious of the delusional world that you live in if you think that's where Baker should be. And I know already one subscriber, Zaniacs, or however the heck you say his name, he's going to be very high on this one. He's going to think that Baker should be even higher. He thinks Baker Mayfield's just the greatest quarterback in the history of the universe. So, and again, I said he's been impressive this season, no doubt about it. But things have to be put into context. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Mahomes Mountain? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. So whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.